If you're diving into this, you're the kind of person who values lessons pulled from the grit of real history. Before we get into the core of the strategy, make sure you subscribe to Warpaths of Europe and like this video, so you never miss the next deep dive into the methods that kept entire nations alive under pressure. Now let's get straight into the system that helped families stretch food through shortages, blockades and uncertainty. Because the same method can cut a modern grocery bill down faster than any trendy budgeting trick. Rationing meals worked because they were structured with a fixed weekly plan that eliminated waste. Households didn't improvise meals day by day. They followed a strict weekly pattern built around what was reliably available. The power of this method is that it prevents unplanned purchases and removes the guesswork that leads to waste. So, a modern household can, really apply this by setting a weekly base menu anchored on inexpensive staples like oats, beans, potatoes, cabbage, onions, and preserved protein. Once the base plan is in place, you just repeat it week after week with only minor variations. For example, a British wartime family might have relied on Monday potato stew, Tuesday vegetable pies, Wednesday boiled barley with root vegetables. These days, you can mirror this with a fixed cycle, such as lentil stew on Mondays, roasted root vegetables with a cheap protein on Tuesdays, and, say, a simple grain and greens bowl mid-week. Predictability is the cost cutter. Wartime cooks, they stretch small portions with thickening and bulking techniques that honestly still work today. Meat, fats and dairy were scarce, but meals, they stayed filling because cooks relied on starch-heavy extenders. Flour, oats, mashed beans and grated root vegetables were added directly into dishes to increase volume without increasing expense. A small piece of meat might flavour a whole pot. You can do the same, really, by using a single chicken thigh to flavour a full pot of barley and vegetables, or by adding mashed beans into minced meat to double its output while keeping texture firm and satisfying. The principle is expansion, not sacrifice. Preservation methods allowed families to buy cheap and store long-term without losing nutrition. Canning, pickling and dehydration were, everyday tasks, not really hobbies. This meant families could, stock up on the cheapest seasonal produce and extend its life for months. In modern practice, this translates pretty straightforwardly. Buy vegetables in bulk at their lowest price chop and freeze them. Pickle cabbage and cucumbers for reliable side dishes, and dry herbs so you can avoid repeated purchases. A family using these methods consistently can reduce spoilage almost to zero. Even just a single weekend spent batch preserving onions, carrots and greens can, save weeks of unnecessary shopping. Leftover discipline, it turned every scrap into the next meal, without emotion or excuses. Nothing was thrown away, because, honestly, everything had a purpose in the next pot. Yesterday's boiled vegetables became tomorrow's broth base. Bread crusts became puddings or thickeners. Bones were simmered until they surrendered their last mineral. Now, to put this into practice today, you need to, establish a fixed rule. Leftovers must be transformed within 24 hours. No exceptions. For example, a leftover vegetable mix. It becomes the filling for a pie. And say, extra rice? That can easily turn into fried rice with preserved vegetables. Honestly, just this habit alone can shave off a significant portion of your weekly spending, and that's something worth considering. So, end the cycle today just like wartime families did, with deliberate control, simple methods, and strict consistency. If you're after more historical strategies with real-world impact, subscribe to Warpaths of Europe and share this video with someone who appreciates the strength of old knowledge.